Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Off the Bench, episode number 4. Your host, Kevin Cornegay, my colleagues, Sean Dustin in the house, Javon Tavares in the house. We're really excited. We have a good show for you. Fellas, how was your week this week?
I was blessed. I had an outstanding week, man. Daughter wrapped up her cross season. She's a goalie.
Nice.
That was a beautiful thing, man.
Yes.
Real happy about that. And just a beautiful, beautiful work week, beautiful music week. Just been a beautiful period, man. How was your week, Flo?
It was wonderful. It was wonderful. I'm one of the few people that it takes a whole lot for me to have a bad week. Man. It takes a whole lot for me to have a bad week. So I'm of the mindset that any time above ground on this planet is time well spent. And I didn't have any major tribulations this week. But even if I did, in knowing that, I still would say it was a good week because in order to truly live, you got to experience the tribulations so that the good times are that much sweeter. So, but that's just a long way of saying it was an uneventful week.
You know what, ladies and gentlemen, you get more than just sports right there, because that's big time wisdom coming from Javon Tavares. So it's safe to say we've all had a blessed week this week. Let's jump right into it. We have a lot to cover. We're in the middle of the conference semifinals, NBA playoffs, and in particular, last night I thought was a surprising outcome to the basketball game as the San Antonio Spurs go to Houston, our Texas two-step, and they are able to get the W despite some of the adversity they're facing. Now, we have both of you on record as picking the Rockets to win
Absolutely.
in either 6 or 7 games. Very, very reasonable picks. Can't argue that much at all. Let me ask you, I'll start with you, Sean. If you're a Rockets fan or supporter, are you disappointed about the outcome yesterday and how the team came out, despite the fact no Tony Parker, despite the fact they still game 1 convincingly, and then they were right in game 2 all the way to mid-fourth quarter? Are you disappointed that they come out and they lay an egg last night, or is this par for the course as far as you're seeing it because it's going to be a long series?
I had the series initially 4-2. Houston, and I'll still stay with that pick. I think what you're seeing is that a team that takes on the identity of their coach. Greg Popovich's teams are one of the least affected teams by change. They do a great job of drafting. They do a great job of developing players, and they do a great job of when a piece is missing or when they have to change gears, they do a great job of creating other schemes, highlighting other players, then getting different actions and going deeper in options A through, C or D on a particular play. Tony Parker, obviously his play has diminished over the past several years, most of that attributed to age. He's still a highly skilled player, and they've become increasingly less reliant on some of his skill set as the years have gone on. Kawhi controls the ball a lot more than when Tony Parker used to be ball dominant. And so you don't really see as much of an adverse effect, losing Tony Parker at this juncture just because of the percentage of time that he was effective now. Now, as far as a locker room guy, as far as his floor wisdom, as far as his wisdom and experience, you definitely miss that. You can't diminish Finals MVP and a Hall of Famer, an international Hall of Famer. So I think while they miss Tony Parker, I think they've been able to do other things to really take James Harden out of his comfort zone. Kawhi Leonard is the best on-ball defender I've seen since Gary Payton. His hands are extremely strong. They're extremely big. He makes things extremely difficult. And when Popovich is drawing comparisons to Michael Jordan, and that's not something that he does ever, that's high praise. And he's not the only person I've her say that, and I don't think it's because of the skill set as much as it is being able to dominate a game on both sides of the ball. And I think this is more of what the Spurs, the adjustments the Spurs have made. He's out Xing and O'ing D'Antoni right now, and they're the team that's playing inspired basketball, rallying around their fallen star of so many decades.
Javon.
Yeah, I think yesterday was a little surprising from the standpoint that I don't think any of us expected San Antonio to roll it in and to quit. That's not something that Greg Popovich-led teams will do. However, I do think that Houston had a great chance on the heels of the Tony Parker injury. They had a great chance to solidify that home court status by getting a big victory on their home floor, and they just flat out didn't show up. James Harden is a magnificent player, probably going to finish in the top 2 for the MVP. He did his part. He was 14 for 28. Okay, he had 43 points or something like that. But the rest of his team didn't show up, period, point blank. And when you're at home, that's when, as Shaq likes to say, the others have to step up and give you that lift. Even if they don't give you that production on the road, at home is where they're supposed to shine. Very disappointed in Lou Williams' lack of ability to score. Ryan Anderson certainly didn't score the ball well. Eric Gordon didn't play well. And you didn't get much from Hilario Nene off the bench. So I think the Rockets had a great opportunity to make a statement. They didn't do that. I think they will win Game 4. And so we're right back to square one, where it's 2-2, and now San Antonio has home court advantage. However, I will say that I have to give credit to San Antonio, and if there was a key factor that turned the series, I would say it was Greg Popovich more than it was Houston not necessarily showing up, because they still had an opportunity to win. But I think Greg Popovich, the more we doubt him and kind of say that this San Antonio team is over the hill and they don't have enough pieces, that's when a great coach like Popovich can watch the film, can make the adjustments in terms of X's and O's, and he did make that adjustment. He started putting Kawhi Leonard on James Harden from the beginning of the game. So I felt like James Harden still performed admirably. He played well, but I felt like he had to work really hard for a lot of those baskets, and clearly his teammates didn't step up to his aid when they needed him. So I think let's give Greg Popovich a lot of credit. Let's give that San Antonio Spur roster a lot of credit. We've been hard on LaMarcus Aldridge. He hasn't been showing up. He played well. Pau Gasol has been big, not necessarily from a points perspective, but second chance opportunities, offensive rebounds, keeping plays alive. Danny Green. There was a Danny Green sighting for one. Danny Green stepped up and hit some timely three-point shots yesterday during that game. So, and then, of course, you've got guys like Patty Mills who are getting extended minutes. Now, I've always liked Patty Mills' game. I think he's an excellent shooter. I think he gives you a lot in the way of defensive effort. I had concerns about those minutes being extended and him being able to maintain his level of energy. But he did well. So I think that San Antonio is in a good spot. But I think Houston is still in a good spot as well, because I think that the impact of the Tony Parker injury won't be felt in an immediate game afterwards. It's going to be throughout the duration of the series as the series starts to get into deeper waters. And even if San Antonio gets out of this series, they'll really see the effects going into the next series. But let's give Greg Popovich credit for making the adjustments and San Antonio for showing some heart, which we all know that they have.
Sean, let me ask you this question. James Harden, can he finish a series? Or am I being too hard on him? He has a lot of career left, but do you see him as a guy that eventually will be able to finish a series that they're supposed to win? Because I look at it like they should be able to win this series. Can he finish?
I think you have a legitimate concern in terms of some of his past postseason play. I think the one that people point to the most is a young James Harden in an OKC Miami Heat final where he was completely ineffective. And, you know, in some of the big games against the biggest competition, there's times he's been taken out of the game a little bit easier than you would expect him to, being how supreme of a playmaker he is. I really see him being able to finish a series. I think he's more competitive than a lot of people give him credit for, and I don't think he shies away from the moment. I think the biggest thing that I've seen with him is that he hasn't been able to be the best counterpuncher, where once certain things are taken away from him, he knows how to change. Some of the great players in the game that we've seen, great playmakers in the past, Michael Jordan obviously comes to mind, is days that his shot wasn't going on, his defense increased, or he got to the line more, or he found other ways to dominate the game outside of the things that are right in his comfort zone. Part of the big change that Pop has made, and I've seen this done against LeBron James because of his playmaking ability, is that putting Kawhi Leonard on him at the start, it's just like having a great safety or whatever. Like, you don't worry about things in the middle. Like, you know that's covered. When you have a great cover corner, it's like we don't have to worry about that side of the field. So since people are being able to stay home, he's not breaking down the defense the same way where others have to commit to him, where Ryan Anderson's of the world, Lou Williams is able to play with more freedom, Ariza. These guys aren't able to contribute when guys are staying at home on them, knowing that they have a Kawhi Leonard that even if he's going to get his 40 points, he's going to have to shoot a higher volume. He's going to have to work harder before he even gets the ball. And by the time he gets the ball, he's going to be worn down some. The attrition late in the game with somebody who has the ball as much as he does, I think Popovich likes to roll the dice and say, you know what, if we can just wear him down, make things tough, and not allow him to get everybody else involved, we have a much better chance of winning. And I think that's the adjustment you're seeing here.
Javon, when Jordan, obviously the GOAT, was in his heyday, he gave you a feeling like he wasn't going to allow his team to lose. Steph Curry gave me that feeling last year, and that he just wasn't going to allow his team to lose. LeBron James gives me that feeling all the time when he turns it up. I'm starting to feel that way about Kawhi Leonard. When I'm watching games and Pop puts the ball in his hands and has him run the point, and they run that high pick and roll and he's getting into the lane, I get a feeling watching him that there's certain times he's not going to allow his team to lose. Am I overstating that? Also, would you consider him the best two-way player? Would you consider him top 3 or top 4 player in the league?
Well, no question. I think you have to say that he's a top 3 or 4 player in the league. He's going to finish in the top 3 in terms of MVP this year. But no, I don't think you're overstating it when you're saying that you feel like he's not going to allow his team to lose. I think when we take a look at players 1 through 12 on the Houston Rockets and 1 through 12 on San Antonio, I think we can make a case that Houston may be a little bit more talented. However, Kawhi Leonard, because of his ability to hit tough mid-range shots, and so I think Pop draws a great comparison to Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was a killer in the triangle because he was able to shoot such a high percentage with mid-range shots. Mid-range shots don't take the same amount of energy as it would to get all the way to the basket. And you take a look at Jordan when he was going against the Pistons and the Knicks, they would hammer him when he would get try to make it all the way to the basket. So the mid-range shot gives you the impression that you may be going all the way to the basket. You take a hard dribble right or you take a hard dribble left, and because defenders have to respect your ability to get to the basket, they've got to do their best to cut you off. And when you just pull up and you just elevate right over that individual, that's a tough move to stop. So I think Kawhi Leonard is one of the best in the league at shooting that shot, and I think that's a shot that's going to be there for him, not only in this series, but as he continues to move forward, because he is 6'8", and he's a guy that has long arms. He's got big hands. So there are very few individuals that are going to be able to block that shot. So I think Kawhi still has some work to do before we can put him in a league of a Michael Jordan. I know he does have a finals MVP, but it needs to be more sustained. And now that it's actually his team, everybody's gunning for Kawhi Leonard. There's nowhere for him to hide. There's no way for him to be able to defer to a Tim Duncan. Tony Parker is gone. So the San Antonio Spurs will continue to go as Kawhi Leonard goes, but I think now he can cement his legacy as the go-to guy in San Antonio. So there'll be plenty of opportunities for him to do that, but I am becoming a believer in his late-game heroics, and he's so doggone competitive. I think a lot of times because he's a quiet individual, I think there's a tendency to mistake that for a lack of fire. When you see him competing on both ends of the floor, that's indicative of a player that absolutely can't stand to lose, and he wants to be great. So I think Kawhi has that, and hey, time is going to reveal itself not only this season, but in future seasons.
Quickly,
the thing that stands out to me in great dominant defensive players is that they make offensive players react.
Right.
They're the aggressor.
Right.
Generally, guys are able to size people up. When you used to see when people would get down where Mutombo was, and then they start having a pump fake 2 or 3 times, and you know that their initial thought is they want to go up strong.
Right.
But he changes. Kawhi Leonard makes people jump shooters. Even people that are aggressive, they size him up. They know they can't beat him laterally, and they know how active his hands are, and they settle for jump shots more often than not. And he makes them take shots that they don't really want to take. They're like option B or C. He makes people very uncomfortable.
Quickly, guy, Sean, you still have Rockets in 6?
I have Rockets in 6.
Okay.
I think they need to go ahead and fine-tune some things, make some adjustments. People have to remember it's a make-or-miss league.
Right.
They were getting a lot of the same shots that they weren't knocking down that went down the game before, and they were on fire the game before. And you know you're not going to blow out the San Antonio Spurs by 20, 30 points and them not come back with locker room full of pride, professionals, and great coaching and great players top to bottom. But it's a series now. It's competitive. We know that both teams can win on each other's home floor. We know they're both great road teams. They have great pedigree. Let's not act like D'Antoni hasn't been involved in big games, although he doesn't have the pedigree of Popovich.
Right.
He's been to Western Conference Finals. He's had dynamic playmaking point guards that people have worked tirelessly to take out of a game.
Yeah.
And I'm confident that he'll have some other schemes and some things that will counteract and get the Rockets back where they want to be.
Javon, you still have Rockets in 7, I believe, that you picked last week?
I do. I have Rockets in 7, and I think it's because eventually Lou Williams, Ryan Anderson, and Eric Gordon are going to be the difference makers with that ancillary scoring that they'll be able to provide the Rockets. However, we just talked about Kawhi Leonard and his ability to seemingly to throw the Spurs on his back. If they're going to continue to start him out on James Harden, that means James Harden is not going to be as comfortable when he initiates the offense. That means he could work harder throughout the course of the game to get the shots that typically he gets fairly easily. So I think that could have a big impact on the season. I'm not as confident in that pick as I was a week ago, but I think ultimately the Rockets will get it done, and there'll be a little bit too much for the Spurs.
Vaughn, we'll start with you on this one here. Is Utah going to get a game, or are we looking at a sweep as the Dubs? Game 3 is tonight, actually, 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern time. Are they going to get a game, or are we looking at a sweep?
Does the sun rise in the west? No. Does it set in the east? No. Utah Jazz will not win a game. They're just completely outclassed in this series. And give Quinn Snyder a great deal of credit for getting his Utah Jazz to this point.
Yes.
Gordon Hayward is a fine young player. Rudy Gobert showing a lot of intestinal fortitude by playing through the knee injury as well as the ankle injury. ISO Joe Johnson has been an individual that has produced at a high level for many years, but they're not going to win a game. They just don't have enough. Draymond Green is playing too well. Steph Curry is playing too well. Kevin Durant is working his way back in. They're getting a lift from JaVale McGee. He's giving you some big minutes off the bench. Sean Livingston is doing his thing. Iguodala is doing his thing. Under no circumstance do I see the Utah Jazz winning a single game, let alone even having a lead going into the fourth quarter in this one. It's a wrap. It's a saran wrap. It's a done deal. Forget about it.
Sean, now Salt Lake City is known to be a very, very tough place to play. Any chance at all that the Jazz can sneak away a win, or are we talking about a sweeper?
I mean, I'll be honest, man. I would have rather played the Clippers, man. The Utah has no nightlife.
Salt Lake City, an underrated party town.
Hey.
Well, ask Kobe.
Salt Lake City. He was in Colorado.
Yeah, that's Colorado. That's Colorado.
That's right.
Colorado.
That's true. That's true.
That's Colorado. Oh man, Kobe, we love you, Kobe. We love you. We love you, Kobe.
Kobe's an all-time great, and I was Colorado. I was just trying to take a shot. Okay, I'm gonna say this: Utah absolutely has 0% chance of winning a game here. They're completely outgunned. They're outcoached. And they look. I'll give them credit where credit is due. They fight. They have a young team that has guys that want to play hard and they want to win. They don't know how to win yet. They have some inexperience. Gobert can't stay out of foul trouble. He's too eager to try to make a big play instead of just be a great defender. That's something that he'll learn in time.
Yeah.
Hayward's coming into his own. Gordon is a budding superstar. He's a great player. He's going to need some pieces around him. No disrespect to Utah. This is just really about the greatness of Golden State, and it's a really uneven series, and I don't see them winning the game. There's going to be plenty of time for Golden State to rest, practice, and get fine-tuned, and Durant to get healthy. Golden State is primed to make another deep playoff run, championship-style run, and they're going to be excellent along the way. I don't see anybody giving them any trouble, let alone the hapless Utah Jazz.
Sean, let's turn our attentions to the East. Were the Cavs playing possum this entire time? Because they look like they are a legitimate threat to repeat. And I mean repeat no matter who they play. Regardless of if they play the Dubs, regardless of if they play the Spurs or Rockets, whoever the case may be, they look like they are a legitimate threat. Have they been playing possum, or is this just a reflection of the East not having a suitable team that can push them?
No, I think obviously even with a healthy Kyle Lowry, Toronto wasn't going to win. But obviously with Kyle Lowry's inability to play with a hurt ankle, DeRozan had a bounce back game. It wasn't enough. And this isn't Cleveland playing possum as much as it is getting healthy and having practice time at the right time. I think they had their starting lineup together maybe 12 to 17 games the whole year. They're an intact unit. I think there was some finals hangover. I don't think they were as locked in or as focused early in the year, and even throughout the year. They were consistent really throughout the year. And then once they made some trades and were able to get some other people in there, with the way that the schedule is, and you've heard this with the resting and minutes and all of these things that we've talked about it, they really don't have a lot of time to practice. They go to shoot-arounds, then they go to a game. Then they get on a plane, go to another city. So I don't think they really had an opportunity to practice and get some of these other players acclimated, in addition to the fact that some of it was self-inflicted. And I think more than anything, I think health is a huge factor. Being able to actually scheme for one team and look at film, study tendencies, and really get locked in that format, I think that's what you're seeing here. I don't think they're playing possum. I just think they're playing their best ball at the best time. And obviously LeBron is being a lot more aggressive. His free throw attempts are up, obviously, which is directly tied to his level of aggression.
That's a big key.
He's averaging more points through his first 7 games than any other player over the age of 32, including Michael Jordan. When Michael Jordan was making those second 3 championship runs. And so I think you're seeing a team that's focused, led by their superstar, and you're seeing those other pieces really gain that same level of championship confidence. And I will give merit to the fact that Toronto is really not a competitive team, that the product that they've put on the floor is really disappointing. I expected a more competitive series. I didn't expect a sweep. I expected more of something in the 4-2 line. But you're right. Cleveland is primed to repeat. They're really playing championship-level basketball right now. But I think you're also seeing it against lesser competition and great teams just like the Golden State Warriors. If you don't come to play and you're not at our level, we're going to obliterate you. And that's what you're seeing right now.
Javon, you posted something on your Facebook page the other day saying that the Warriors need to have their antennas up because Cleveland is coming. What is it that you've seen in the Cavs that is giving you that opinion?
Focus. First and foremost, I think the Cleveland Cavaliers don't have much reverence for the regular season. It's been well documented that they will rest LeBron. They will rest Kyrie. Kevin Love has been the beneficiary of some of that rest as well. And to Sean's point, they haven't had an opportunity to be healthy for a full year, and they haven't had an opportunity to get the practice minutes in. But that's changing now. Now that we're in the postseason, this idea of flipping the switch, that's something that LeBron embraces. And at this point, he can't do anything else during the regular season that's going to help solidify and cement his greatness. It's all about the postseason. So now that the postseason is here, I think you've seen a different level of focus from LeBron and from Kyrie. And they're looking a lot like how they looked last year when they were rounding into form into the finals against the Warriors. So I just wanted to put that out there that right now these two teams are on a collision course. They're both playing excellent brands of basketball, and that's something that you want to see when you have a championship matchup has a certain air of inevitability. So, but I do think that Cleveland is very live at this point. At the beginning of the playoffs, you may recall that I mentioned that I thought the Warriors would run through the West and then they would beat the Cavaliers in the finals, something like 6 games. Well, maybe I don't know if I even gave the amount of games, but Cleveland is rounded into form. You have LeBron saying that we are the defending world champions. Kevin Durant and the Warriors get all the accolades, they get all the attention, they get all the jersey sales, but let's recognize that I'm still the biggest sheriff. I'm still the only sheriff in the NBA that can do the type of things that I've done. So LeBron is making that message loud and clear for everyone to hear. And I think the Warriors, it's time for them to focus on the Cavs. Keep one eye open, right? Because they're going to say all the right things. They're going to say, oh, no, we're only focused on this next game. We don't look for that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. We all know that these two teams are going to clash. And if I see my enemy or I see my opponent playing well, it just puts me on notice.
Right.
So.
Right. Vaughn.